So now that we just finished reading Tops and Bottoms by Janet Stevens, I have a little activity we can do that goes with the story. You're going to need crayons, scissors, a marker. You're going to need one brad. These are called brads. You'll see how they work in a minute. And some glue and 2 paper plates. So the first thing we're going to do is you're going to color half of your plate blue. So go ahead and color half your plate blue. I'm sure you guys are much better colorers than I am. Did you guys enjoy the story with Bear and Hare? It's a story I like. I feel sorry for Bear sometimes because he got tricked every single time. But you know what? Maybe if he hadn't been so lazy and slept all the time, he couldn't have been tricked as easy, right? He could have worked with the hares and worked together. But then I guess we wouldn't have such a funny story. So in the story, the first time, Hare keeps everything on the bottom half. Bear keeps everything on the top half. I'm sure you guys can color much better than I can. So our first half will be blue, and our bottom half will be brown. Anybody have an idea what we're going to do, blue and brown? Let's think about that for a second. We're going to show examples of things that are tops and things that are bottoms in our, and this is going to be like our little pretend garden here. So we've got brown and blue. So we have, and if you want later, you can put more decorations. This is going to be our sky, and this is going to be our soil. And we're going to do it all over again, one more time on this paper plate, since we're already holding the brown crayon. Let's go ahead. Color brown on half of it. You could probably also use markers if you want, but that would take even a lot more time, I believe, to use markers. Or colored pencils. Or even construction paper, I suppose. So this is going to show. Your hand's getting tired, my hand's getting tired. We have our brown again for our soil. And one more time with the blue. I'm getting sloppy there. Sorry about that, guys. We're going to color the second half blue. Okay, so now we have 2 plates, and they both have half of it is blue, half of it is brown. In the story, we said tops and bottoms, but for this, we're going to use 2 different words. We're going to say above. So go ahead with your marker and write above in the blue sky, and write below on the ground. So we're going to talk about plants that grow above the ground and plants that grow below the ground. So go ahead and set that aside for a second. What are some of the plants? Do you remember from the story some of the plants that might grow above or below the ground? Remember how I talked about beautiful illustrations here? We have celery. Does celery grow above the ground or below the ground? Grows above the ground, the part that we like to eat. How about that? Because there are roots underneath. So somewhere, go ahead and make a celery plant on your garden. If you want, you can put some little roots down here. But the part that we eat that grows above the ground is our celery. Remind me when on one of our lessons coming up, I have something cool to tell you about celery. What else grows above the ground? Maybe from the story, maybe not from the story. We have lettuce. It grows above the ground, the part that we eat. We have broccoli. So why don't we put some lettuce and broccoli in the garden? So we have our lettuce. And actually, instead of broccoli, I'm gonna plant in my garden. See if you can figure out what this is gonna be. I don't have it right, but we'll use this. I'm gonna have tomatoes on my tops. Because tomatoes that we eat, they grow above the ground. So these are all things that grow above the ground. Does anybody remember some of the things that grew below the ground in the story? The beets, the radishes, the carrots. So we're going to put some of those below ground because the part that we eat is below the ground. So if you want to make a carrot, and you can give it a little bit of greens on top because when it's in the garden, that's the part you'd see. You wouldn't see the carrot part when you've looked in the garden because it's growing below the ground. You just see the little tops. And I'm gonna make a beet. I'm growing beets in my garden and we'll have to go out there and see if any are ready to see. They're quite tasty. And then finally, way over here, I'm going to make a radish. And a radish is kind of similar shaped as the beet, but it's smaller. So we have our things that grow below the ground, that if we went out and looked in the garden, we wouldn't see the part that we eat, the beets, the carrot, and the radish. And we have the things that grow above the ground, the tomato, the celery, and the lettuce. So now you're going to pick up this plate again that we had colored earlier that says above and below. You're going to need your scissors. You're going to cut them all the way apart so that you have two pieces. You have an above and a below. So now, if you put your plates together like this, this is when you're going to need your brad. And if you need help with this, if you raise your hand, one of the counselors might be able to give you a hand with this because sometimes this can be a little tricky. You're taking, you put these two so they overlap just a little bit. You're going to take your brad and you're going to poke it into the paper plate so it goes through all the way through. And then it opens. There's actually two pieces here. And it opens like this. You're going to fold it open. So now you can say things that grow above the ground: celery, lettuce, tomatoes, and things that grow below the ground: beets, carrots, and radishes. And you can take this home and share it with your family and tell them about the story Tops and Bottoms by Janet Stevens, and that these are the different vegetables we eat and whether they grow above the ground or below the ground. And you can add other vegetables too as well. Thank you.